I want to just declare that there's no conflict. References of this presentation is in a reference slide, and you can download this if you wish. It's basically a presentation with a lot of photos in it, so please watch the screen. Don't watch me unless I call for that. It's nice that people look at you sometimes. And I want to highlight the objectives of this presentation. First of all, how to actively, intentionally build resilience against stigma and strategies around that. Secondly, to influence and change perspectives on the word crazy. Okay, now that's crazy, isn't it? How do you change the perspective of a word? How do you change the meaning of a word? And then thirdly, to utilize fun, a very positive emotion, to diffuse a highly negative emotion and to talk to a real serious subject. Those are the themes of this presentation. So please do understand that. And I would like to just check this clicker. Yes. This coming week is a significant historical moment week for the United States of America. I don't know if you know this, but this coming week on the 20th of July, 50 years back in 1969, lunar module Apollo 11, after 102 hours, 45 minutes from liftoff, landed on the Sea of Tranquility. That's the surface of the moon. About 4 hours after assisting the landing of this module, over 650 million people worldwide sat riveted before their radio transceivers, and they heard Neil Armstrong speak the immortal phrase, "One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind." It marked the previously unthinkable, the craziest dream, the craziest vision of not only putting man in space, but actually to have him walk on the moon. And then, thereafter, to venture into deep space and explore the unthinkable. It was the turnaround event in the space race. America won it. The stage was set for deep space exploration, and it changed the way mankind looked at the impossible. And it inspired many to take on the seemingly impossible, the craziest dreams, and to fulfill it. Thousands of lessons have been learned since. 50 years later, for instance, the cardiac bypass pump today, we attribute to the space race. This smartphone of mine today, 50 years later, has more computer power than the total NASA control station that put the first man on the moon. 20 minutes after Neil Armstrong stepped out of the lunar module, Buzz Aldrin followed. He wore an Omega professional speedmaster with movement 3-1. It became a critical watch for Apollo 13's failed mission to bring the men back to Earth. He wore a spacesuit that protected him against the harsh realities of space. But he didn't wear red pants and happy socks. I want to tell you a real story. It's one story of many stories. And it's the story of one person's dream. One person's dream that seemed impossible, but affected and changed the lives of thousands of people. It is one small step someone took. This is one of many stories. And so please just listen to the story as I tell the story and hear the analogy, the metaphor in this story of many good lessons in destigmatizing, changing the word crazy and educating people, and the small step that we as mankind can do in the race for eternity. I am in the space of mental illness and mental wellness. In South Africa, the cost of mental illness takes up 5.7% of our gross domestic product. It alerted us all. It is more than double the budget amount for the total health care of the whole country. The cost of mental illness has escalated exponentially over the past years. South Africa happened to be the highest loss to GDP ratio in the world due to depression, people suffering from mental illness and not being effective in the work. In terms of why do people suffer from depression? What does it do to their lives? It is very clear that misunderstanding, social and cultural stigma surround mental ill health, and it's widespread. According to the World Health Organization, it is the main barrier to treatment. There are effective treatments, but because people are stigmatized, because there is misunderstandings, people don't seek help, and thus the illnesses of despair has escalated to a crazy, out of control, more than 800,000 suicides every year, meaning 45 seconds another person dies. Illness of despair. The barriers to treatment, according to the World Health Organization, is social and self-stigma. Not just the social stigma, but also self-stigma. Also lack of understanding of the mental illness and access to resources. At Vista Clinic, we realized that we had to do something. We cannot allow this reality of people and friends dying around us to influence our life so negatively. But it was a crazy idea to think that we could somehow have an influence in some way or the other. We thought, we cannot really influence, even though we are trying government's protocol, because the government's will is not really there to deal with mental illness. So what can we do? Well, there are some things we can do. We can attack the stigma. We can also educate people about mental illness and mental wellness. And so we set out on the journey to really do something about the stigma. Now, life lesson number one is to understand, how do you climb a mountain? One of the Sherpas at Mount Everest said, when you're climbing Mount Everest, nothing is easy. This was a mountain before us. How can we take on the stigma? How can we educate a whole country? We are just a small hospital somewhere. We believe God has placed us there, by the way. So how do you do it? Take one step at a time. Never look back. And always keep your eyes glued to the top. Now, how crazy is this to think that we would be able to have an influence on stigma and on the escalating death because of despair, suicide, self-death, people dying of depression. And so we said, we most likely will have to take on, as in research is indicated, and embrace what is negative about this. And the word crazy is really negative when you use it to mental illness. But it's not negative when I say, I am crazy in love with my wife. By the way, she's in the audience. I am crazy in love with my wife. There's nothing wrong with that. But when you see somebody's got an illness and you say they're crazy, it has a different tone to it. So how crazy is crazy? Jack Sparrow said, crazy people don't know that they are crazy. I know I am crazy, therefore I am not crazy. Isn't that crazy? So we became a bit crazy. And in the brainstorming, one of our employees had this crazy dream of walking the country from the north to the south. Yeah, now that's crazy. It's 1,500 kilometers. So this crazy dream, a girl called Hanneke Buitendag, as Sigmund Freud said, dreams are often most profound when they seem the most craziest. We latched onto that dream. Team of creative people got together and said, this is our chance. If we walk really crazy, because we can fly, we can drive, we can really get quickly to Cape Town from Pretoria, why should we be walking? Well, we will have the attention of all the little towns, and as we walk, we can tell people about mental illness and mental wellness. We can educate them. And so we set out determining a route, 1,500 kilometers. Well, to make it really crazy, we had to be visual about it. And so the story continues that we started wearing crazy socks. Well, we had a lot of fun at Vista. By the way, this is the best team building exercise. It's the best culture turnaround. And we asked ourselves, why would we be doing this? Because we want to destigmatize the word crazy. We want to destigmatize mental illness. We want to teach people about mental wellness, because the word mental illness is not spelt crazy. It is an illness. So, our teaching element was happiness helps. I'm not going to get stuck on that. We taught people all along the way, 1,500 kilometers of walking, these 5 key elements to happiness. It's free. Now, we face this mountain, and really it is a tough mountain to do this whole call. First of all, we had to name it, and thus came the name Crazy for Walking. Beautiful colors, we had it designed, and this is what we set out to do. 1,500 kilometers, and we figured it out. It was going to take us 5 weeks walking from Pretoria to Cape Town. We had a lot of fun, but it was long distance walking, and for the sake of mental health. We had the socks, we had it all going, and then we set out to set up a team. This was our planning team. We got structures in place. We had a PR and media plan, and it took some real hard effort to put it all together. There was a structure put in place, and we got sponsors. It was hard work to get these sponsors. And eventually, after identifying who our stakeholders were, we went to the trustees of the board and we said, we've got this crazy idea. They gave us thumbs up, and we got 4 partners, 4 hospitals that said, we will support this crazy idea. 1 person, 1 hospital, 1 team, 4 hospitals. And so we kept everyone informed with a good communication program. We set up meetings, and the night before the Great Walk, debriefing, preparation, even some psychological discussions on, guys, this is going to be tough. We packed our vehicles. And early in the morning, before sunrise, the first 6 women set out to walk with this one crazy girl. This was support walkers. She's going to walk for 5 weeks. Long roads, support vehicles. The traffic was there. Long outstretched distances. Lonely, long distances. Hazardous environments. Terrible trucks. You get the analogy? The whole story became an analogy it became a type, it became an example of, kind of a metaphor of the journey that our patients have been taking. Outstretched, huge mountains we had to cross. Yes, and there was a lot of pain and blisters and bruises on the way. Adverse weather conditions, that's snow on the mountain, by the way. Rerouting on the roads. But every now and then there was this beautiful glimmer of beauty right next to this road, this treacherous road. Something started happening. Community started hearing about us. They joined us. They invited themselves. They offered their services. And people started walking with us. The media got hold of it. And all of a sudden, we were on the air. Radio stations, local stations, national stations said there's some crazy people out there. We want to hear what they're doing. They're walking for a cause, and it's a real good cause. We went to so many radio stations, and then the television came. National television, SABC, prime time morning show with the most popular anchor speaking about mental illness and destigmatizing it and mental wellness. Prime time morning espresso TV, many other TVs, and then we hit the big one. Anchor main national news. It was all over the nation. Everybody heard about this crazy walk. We're walking for a cause. And then the day came when the big mountain of Cape Town, Table Mountain, was in sight. And at the play of a band that came together to welcome us, 26 people that walked and supported Haniki reached Cape Town. We have achieved. Now, when we sat down to check the report, we realized we were in the print media, we were in the social media, Facebook was buzzing about us, they mentioned us in all of those stations, Facebooks, and we had to keep our trustees happy, so we need to show them there's a good return on investment. We invested 169,000 rand. The media's voluntary contribution came to over 2.5 million rand. That's a 1,450% growth on investment. The mission paid with profit for itself. Did you get that? Oh, we influenced the days. The mission paid with profit for itself. We even changed the name of the days. 10th of October, World Mental Health Day, is no longer 10th of October, it's 10th of Socktober. We have our own brand, and people started to upload their stories of how they were in solidarity and in support or helping us. Kids were posting on social media. Dogs didn't do it, but their owners did that. Radio stations started having competition amongst each other. Who's got the craziest socks on for the day of 10th of October? Babies. We had a success. We were glad. We thanked the Lord. It was tough, but the nation heard of us. ...2018 came, and the World Health Organization statistics hit us in the face. 800,000 suicides every 40 seconds. It became the leading cause of death for girls 15 to 18 years old. The number one reason why our young girls are dying. The number two cause of death globally, why 15 to 29-year-olds die. We didn't do enough. We had to do more. We had to be more crazy. We heard of a good friend, prominent cardiologist, headlines. He died of depression. So how crazy could we make our walk? Well, we really took it out of this world. The longest distance from South Africa to another place in the world is somewhere in the far northeastern part of Russia. No. While we were discussing it, media got wind of it. And we started already seeing the response. Yes, they were walking to Mars for mental health. Huh? We were walking to Mars. That stage, Elon Musk launched his Tesla into space to go to Mars. We said we wanted to beat him. We knew it was going to be tough. You cannot really walk to Mars. So what we did, because people wanted to really participate, and by the way, from the first success, in the back end, the telephone lines were ringing, people were calling. One of our clinicians, whose name was on the top because of alphabetical order, called and said, please remove my name from your website. I'm getting on average more than 100 additional asks for appointments every day. So we developed an app, Crazy for Walking. And we asked people to donate their steps. In 1 week, the week of World Mental Health Week, World Mental Health Day, the 10th of October 2018. And we chose some very prominent key areas in the country. That's our White House. It's not white, but it's our White House. We chose some very prominent places in the malls with various participants that volunteered, and they started donating their steps in that week. People walked up the mountains. They carried our banner and flags. Everywhere we got pictures of people doing the crazy walk in solidarity of mental illness and destigmatizing and teaching people about mental wellness. Our media went ballistic, quadrupled. We had primetime TV, national TV. We couldn't keep up. We had to train additional people to go and help us to speak to the media, the television, the radio stations. We were so busy, a whole team was set up for that. It came into the newspapers, we didn't even know about it. Some people somewhere just joined. Old age homes started walking. What did we achieve? In 1 week, the steps donated to mental wellness, destigmatizing mental illness, we walked 305,000 kilometers. Well, we didn't reach Mars, but we did land on the moon. We reached a huge audience on social media. We had a lot of mental health talks in schools, in churches, in corporate environments. People started inviting us. We were invited to bring the mission and the gospel. And it paid for itself. So what's up for Crazy for Walking 2019? A good friend of mine's father once said, if you are not the lead dog, the scene does not change. I'm going to be serious for a moment. Allow me to be serious. When God, the creator of the universe, who loves and cares for us, reached out to this world, crippled by sin and suffering from despair, his son did the unthinkable. He took one giant leap from God's space for mankind from heaven to earth. The stories I've heard this week, the presentations that I've heard this week, has been really to me an affirmation, an encouragement that as our story, the many stories of the Advent health system and the Advent movement is one of a small step in extending God's care and God's healing. And I'm convinced that this Advent movement is and is to be the lead in changing and preparing the scene for God's coming. We can do that. It's exceptional what I hear out there. So let us lead in changing one person, one hospital, 4 hospitals, 20 hospitals, a nation, and influence the scene and prepare it and change it so that one day we can walk through the gates of Jerusalem and walk on the surface of the sea of glass. God bless.